Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube and podcast channel. We're happy to be here. We're bringing you a real-time case happening in the moment. I've been on a roller coaster of an emotional ride. Brittany's been getting texts from me at all hours of the night as I'm following the news to the minute. So I think we should seriously just dive in because there's a lot to cover here. So
let's get to it. I'm Brittany Sheffrin.
I'm Jenna Kaplan.
And this is Murder in Retrograde. So the first story that we are going to bring you today is about a woman named May Millete. Sometimes she's called May, sometimes she's called Maya. For the sake of it not being confusing, we're going to call her May from now on. May Millete, she's described as being 5'2". She was 110 pounds, petite little thing, has brown hair, brown eyes, freckles. She's got some tattoos. She has a musical note on her clavicle, a wrist tattoo that looks like an infinity symbol, and a hummingbird on her back. May works as a defense contractor at the naval base in San Diego, and she's also a very busy mother of 3 children, ages 11, 9, and 4. My goodness, I can't imagine. And this is the information from the GoFundMe that the family has set up. Maya started her civil servant career in 2011 at NAVC, Southwest Regional Maintenance Command. May has dedicated over 10 years of service as a civil servant in the acquisition career field, where she has ensured the nation's freedom through the timely availability of our nation's fleet. She then further excelled in becoming a division director, where she mentored, influenced, and led 25 plus civil servants, all the while maintaining her personal life. In June 2020, Maya left NAVC to pursue larger acquisitions and joined NAVWAR at the Naval Information Warfare Center Pacific Command, where she's currently working. However, she's missing. She was last seen at her home on the evening of Thursday, January 7th, 2021, just days before a planned family trip to Big Bear Mountain Resort for her daughter's 11th birthday. And I think that's very important to note because birthdays are incredibly important to a mother. And of course, that's generalizing, but when you've got little kids, it's a big deal. And the fact that they had this thing coming up and she still did not show up for her daughter's birthday is really worrisome, and understandably her family is terrified. So police were called to her family's Paseo Los Gatos home on January 10th and informed that the mother was missing. And again, she lives in Chula Vista in San Diego. And also from the GoFundMe page, they said, quote, Maya is a miniature but fierce with a bold personality and full of life, but also has a pure and caring heart. She's a lover of all things outdoors, from hiking to paddleboarding, but can also soothe your heart with the stroke of her fingers against the guitar strings while singing sweet melodies, end quote. So an amazing woman all the way around. She's missing. She's got children. She's not showing up for her children's birthday party. It's very upsetting. Jenna, what do we know about May's last known whereabouts?
Yeah, so there's not a ton of information, but the best way that I think we can give the information to you guys is to play an interview. So Larry early on did an interview with ABC 10 News San Diego. So we're going to play that for you now, and then we can kind of break it down after that. So here we go.
When did you first notice that May was missing?
Saturday morning.
Okay. And tell me...
Her parents came by.
Mm-hmm. Just tell me, kind of walk me through like the last time you saw her and what was going on.
Thursday night, we got into a kind of an argument. And, we've been having, problems, for about a year. We kind of been up and down and stuff like that. But after that, I give her space.
So just tell me, so you got into an argument and then the last time you saw her was actually in the house?
Yes,
okay.
Thursday.
So she didn't take a vehicle?
No.
No one saw her leave?
No, but on Friday, I I could still hear her, but I didn't physically see her when I got home. But that's like normal too, because we have lots of bedrooms, it's a 2-story house, and we kind of like, well, I give her space. So, but that's why every time someone says Thursday, yes, it's physically, or visually see her, but for me, it's Friday night. I can hear her like wrestling around, making dinner for herself in another bedroom. I'm sleeping with the kids in another bedroom.
Okay.
So upstairs and she's downstairs, kind of deal, kind of like a roommate thing. It's kind of like giving each other space. Well, sure. I don't need the space. She always wants the space.
Got it. So it was like Friday, and then you left or went somewhere, and then came back, and she wasn't there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I left her with my 2 girls because they do their homeschool. Mm-hmm. And then I just had my son with me. So when I came back, she was still there on Friday. We can hear her downstairs, like after I'm done giving the kids baths and feeding them and everything. And on Saturday morning, when her parents came by, her door was locked. I found the keys to the bedroom, and I opened it, and she was already gone. So maybe she went to a morning sunrise hike, because she didn't go jeeping because that's one of her other hobbies, the Jeep group. And, she would have taken that. So assumed maybe one of her friends picked her up, and, they went hiking or wine tasting. She likes to go wine tasting in Temecula. That's her other thing, or brunch, early morning. Yeah. After that, at night, we're okay, she hasn't come home yet, which is sometimes okay. She'd go out maybe for drinks or something. She usually doesn't drink a lot, but recently she's been, doing that. The latest she would be home like 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning. After that, that's kind of like out of the ordinary.
Sure.
So my sister-in-law was recommending, hey, maybe we should call the cops now. I was like, well, give her some time. But we initially got to the police report. They're like, hey, you got to check the hospitals first. So this is like around 12 o'clock at night. And it's like, okay, they start checking the hospitals. 12:30, they finally filed the police report. And I was like, well, maybe give her some time, because I'd call like at 4:30 because, give her some time if it's really, really out of the ordinary. Yeah, so after that, they started the investigation. Well, 3 cops came, let them search the house. They looked all the houses, all the cars, and then we just been waiting. And then I got the NCIS called me, and then he was able to search the house and everything. My in-laws have been here the whole time. They start doing the neighbors, the cameras and everything, trying to figure out if when she left, like they can see it, but they can't really because it was nighttime kind of deal. We're just basically trying everything and anything, trying to find her.
Well, Larry, just tell me, how worried are you, and what do you think happened? Where do you think she is?
Before I wasn't really worried. I was kind of like worried, but I wasn't like totally worried until the birthday. I was thinking, okay, maybe like she's just blowing off steam, just like doing what she told me before, where she wants everyone to leave her alone. Because before I used to get her family involved, like, hey, she's not coming home. And then why'd you call my family? I just want everyone to leave me the thing alone. But, I was like, okay, this time I think she stepped up her game. Like she's blocking everyone. But now that, she missed our daughter's birthday, and like with all this pressure with the media and everything, there's something keeping her from contacting us. So my sister-in-law is, I don't really try to think about that stuff because it's like mind-numbing, but I'm trying to stay positive. But, when people are telling me, hey, maybe she got into an accident while she's hiking, and she can't get her phone, I'm like, well, her phone will be right next to her, like she wears Fabletics, so it would be in her pocket. So worst case scenario, I don't know what's keeping her from, contacting anyone, but this pressure should be enough pressure to say, hey, you guys, I'm okay.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure what to think, but, I'm still trying to, keep my head up, trying to say, hey, keep positive and say, I'm hoping, like, she'd just come home, even though this whole situation is embarrassing. I don't know what to think, but the longer it's going, the more, like, surreal it gets because, what they say is like the first 48, 72 hours is the most critical. I've seen enough movies and, documentaries about this kind of stuff. So, like, the worst case scenario is basically, something's happened, like, very terrible, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, how worried are you? Do you think there's still a chance that she could voluntarily have left and she just needs time? How worried are you?
That's what I'm hoping for. And this is, like, really whoa, come on, why did you have to do this, the whole thing? But I'm really worried and shaken. But, again, like, most of the time it's just numbing. Like, surreal kind of deal. I'm just worried about her and, trying to keep things normal with the kids because I know they don't show it, but, it's really affecting them. So
when she didn't surface for your daughter's birthday, that was really unlike her.
That was the pinnacle. Yeah, that was like a gut-wrenching feeling. And, you break down a little bit. It's like, whoa, she would never not even say, hey, honey, happy birthday kind of deal. So.
And and your 11-year-old's old enough. Has she asked? Like, are they asking?
Yeah, she's asking, but she's kind of like me, keep yourself in the shell. Don't really want to, open up.
How many times has she left before, and how long has it been?
In the past, like, before, she would just, like, stay at the park or park somewhere or go, like, in the parking lot, and that's years back, even this past year, she just stay away. This year, she'd, like, go out, drink with her friends or stay at a friend's house, and try to sleep it off. Couple months, she's been, like, wanting her space, so she'll go out with family to places, and she'll just go out for days and stuff like that. But at least I know where she's at.
So how when she's gone, right? So, but when she has left, how long? What is the longest she's been gone for?
Like maybe a day for like till 2:30 or 3:00 in the morning, kind of deal.
So never more than a day or two.
Oh yes, never more than a day.
Okay, never more than a day, and then you always kind of knew where she was at. Okay.
Not more than a day.
Okay.
Basically, or the next day. Again, I always tell her we have 3 kids. You can't be doing this kind of stuff, and she would never be that irresponsible not to say, hey, I'm okay.
Was there anybody that wanted to hurt her? Was there any other guy? I hate to ask, but
like, I don't know. I told the police, she really likes hiking.
Okay.
Wine tasting, so Temecula and stuff like that, but I don't know what else to think, like, who would, kidnap her or...
Would she go hiking by herself?
She has, yes, but that's the ones, like, close to the house. We have a hiking trail in San Miguel Park, or San Miguel right here. That's the only time she would go by herself. And yes, she has before in the beginning, but she would take her car. So she would go to the one, I don't know, the Santee one or the one in the Mesa. I forgot, there's a mountain there.
Yeah.
But, yes, those ones she would go by. So, but most of the time she would go with hiking mamas or with Shane. And then, she's like one of the leaders. And then everyone else is like, whoever shows up to that group.
So she was a pretty experienced hiker.
Not experienced. She was training for this hike that me and her tried like 10 years ago before we had kids. Down the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. Anyway, it takes about a day to go down there. So she's been hiking and hiking. It's kind of a stress relief. And she wanted to do this like a 7 hiking trail, like, Twin Sisters, Devil's Peak, or Potato Chip Rock, and all the ones that she keeps mentioning. And I was like, well...
But she would have taken her car, like, or there would have been a friend, or...
Yes, exactly. If she didn't have her car, a friend would have to pick her up.
Okay.
So that's the only reason why I think maybe she's wine tasting or hiking with a friend. Because she's not jeeping because her car's here.
Right.
She has her own vehicle and she has a Jeep. Like, she specifically goes for Jeep cruise.
So what has this been like, Larry, just emotionally for you? I know you said you're kind of just numb and you're trying to take care of 3 children, but I mean, how are you doing emotionally with this? I mean, this is...
Trust me, I've been emotionally, physically, mentally drained. It's no sleep, not eating. Just my face looked like it just aged, like, I don't know. But, the main thing is I can't really think straight.
Okay, so this interview was very interesting to me. The thing that jumped out first to me, which I know I'm the skeptical Sally, okay, everybody. I'm the one that's going to be like, they did it. They totally did it. And Jenna's going to be like, think about them. She's the heart here, and I'm the cold-hearted bitch. But anyway, he's giving too much information. Also, my background is psychology, so I'm looking for facial cues, micro expressions, anything. And he's giving so much information and his voice is so like nonchalant. Yes, I'm totally judging and people are different in all circumstances. I just don't know that I would be that um detached unless I didn't care about her anymore and like something was going wrong in the marriage or I was involved, right?
Yeah, so again, I can see both sides. So I listened to
Your
it the
little
first time.
halo.
I know. Well, the first time I listened to it, I sent it to you immediately. We were like dissecting it. And my first thought was, he's trying to distance himself right off the bat of she wanted, well, because he says, what did he say? Something to the effect of giving her space. Then he steps over himself and he goes, well, she wanted her space. So stuff like that is a cue to me, like, why are you immediately distancing yourself from your missing wife? And then it's odd to me. And granted, like when you're in a bigger home and your roommates essentially, you are really not interacting. But it's interesting that he says, well, we heard her, making herself dinner or whatever. And then she went to her, he's being really vague about some of the things he's like talking about. He's like, he didn't see, he's being clear to say he didn't see her. And then, but they heard her. It's very interesting.
And
Um,
I understand if like imagine if you were in a marriage and it was falling apart and
yeah,
then this happens, it would be hard, right? Because you're expected to come out there crying and being upset and he could be completely innocent and they
yeah.
were having a horrible time in their marriage. One would think somebody would push that aside and be desperate to find the mother of their children, but it's just, because I gave him the benefit of the doubt when he was talking about she liked to go on her own. She liked to be on her own because that's me.
Mhm.
And my husband does that for me. I say, like, I'm an introvert. I need alone time. And that's something we know. And like his mom for a while was like, I don't understand this. This is weird. Why does she need alone time? So I gave him the benefit of the doubt about that, but he just kept talking about it. I mean, my
Well,
husband would be like, yeah, she just got sick of me sometimes and needed to be alone. He would be awful. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if they
no,
interviewed him?
no,
People would
no,
be like, he did it. He definitely.
no. The other thing that I
Your
thought was
husband, too, actually. He's like, there's a soccer game. I have to go. How much more do I have to talk about her?
you wouldn't even talk. You would not. The other thing that I thought was very strange. So remember, this is right now, this is happening.
Yes.
It's in California. So we live in California, so we can speak to this. We are still pretty much in a lockdown environment. Like
Yeah.
restaurants just got the okay to open up, I think, even like small capacity. I don't even know if they're inside right now, but there's
Yeah.
curfew
And it was just
stuff.
last
And
week. Before
yeah,
that, we were completely locked down. I mean, they're telling us to wear 2 masks inside. Like,
right.
we are locked down.
So when he says she sometimes goes off until 2:30, and it's like, well, nothing's open till 2:30 in the morning. So that's a real interesting comment to be making right now. Like, I don't understand. And I almost feel like it could be if he's, let's say he knows more than he's letting on. It could be a way of like villainizing her a little bit. Oh, she liked
Yeah.
to go party with her friends and she'd be out until 3 in the morning. And it's like, why do you need to even talk about that? Why is that the thing that's coming out of your mouth when it should be help me find my wife? Like,
It is strange. It's either I'm angry at her and I'm
yeah,
annoyed that she did these things, or yeah, trying to make her look bad, which would not be a smart thing to do. But yeah, I mean,
it could go
who
both ways. And
knows?
again, it could be just a male's version of dealing with trauma.
Hmm.
Not a lot of men get emotional in situation. Maybe it's more of like I've got my children I'm dealing with, and he sounds like this might not even have been planned because he's kind of, I don't know. It doesn't sound like he knew this interview was going to happen. I would like to know the backstory a little bit more, but
Right.
it's interesting. But I could definitely see it going both ways. I don't think that I listened to this and go, he's guilty of
Yeah.
something. So it's interesting, but going on from there. So family members have searched the trails in the park, and they initially believed that May, it's going to happen to me.
I know, me too. I keep going back and
May or
forth.
Maya,
May.
it's the same person. So they thought she had gone for a walk after her and Larry had an argument, because he's admittedly said they had an argument. And it's a little bit muddled about like what the argument was about. It's not important, but I think a lot of it stemmed from her getting this Jeep Wrangler, and there was some sort of conflict about this car. So
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with jeeping. Is that what he was saying?
yeah, so she goes off like I think a lot of different kind of off-roading type cars kind of have
Yeah,
these groups, and they meet up and they go. I would imagine in San Diego they probably go to like Mexicali, where there's like
right.
those
The dunes.
the dunes and stuff like that. So it would probably be something, or Glamis. I think it was they
That
recently took a trip
oh,
to
that's they
Glamis.
just went there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So they go and right. And I guess that was like an argument they had there was about the Jeep. So
right.
anyways,
Okay.
it could be so minor. But anyway, anyone had heard from her was on this family text on January 7th, when they were talking about the daughter's birthday, and it's her daughter, and she's usually the first one, I guess, to get back to people, and she wasn't. So that was kind of the red flag for her family. And her brother ended up coming to their home, and Larry was saying, oh, she's in her bedroom and the door was locked. And so he had to go find keys, which again to me is weird. Like, you have a separate set of keys for the bedroom? Because he said, I found the key and we got in and there was no one in there. So again,
It's like she's renting a room.
it's very bizarre. So after they, open the door and no one's in there, they obviously think something's wrong. And you hear Larry say, well, let's just give her a little bit more time. And that to me is again, like, why are you saying that? I immediately would hope my husband would say something's wrong, even if we're estranged, and get the police involved. But he even said, in the interview that you just heard, like, let's give her a little bit more time. But then by the time it was 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever he said, they were ready to kind of move forward. So
And
it's
who
just,
knows? I mean, in marriages, if he said they just got in a fight, he said it right away.
yeah,
That's an uncomfortable moment.
yeah,
And, I would imagine a lot of relationships, somebody drives off and leaves and blows off steam. So maybe it was just one of those, like, let's just wait, because he was embarrassed and he just thought it was a fight and she'll come home and it won't be a big deal. So
right.
who knows?
So I mean, so getting more into their marriage, it definitely seems like it's not great. So tell us
No.
what we know so far.
Yeah, so Larry openly admitted in the interview that things were strained and that they had been having issues for about a year or two before the incident. It's a long time to be having
Mm-hmm.
issues with little kids.
Mm-hmm.
He also admits that they had a fight the night before she went missing. And May's sister, Mary Chris, is quoted in the Daily Mail saying, for a year or two, it's been kind of a rocky relationship, and they had tried marriage counseling. They argued a lot. Sorry, this is Mary Chris's husband. So May's brother-in-law said, quote, they argued a lot and it was a little bit uncomfortable. It was weird because Larry was acting different. He wasn't acting like Larry. He was acting different. They were done. The relationship was done. You could just tell, end quote. And he said this after they went on that last trip to Glamis. He was interviewed and he said it just felt weird. And I heard another quote of him saying that it just, when you can tell when a couple has
Yeah.
tried and there's no going back. And that's what the brother-in-law seems to be portraying, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
So on the Glamis trip, he said, there was the new Jeep was her purchase, but then Larry was like taking it off and disappearing, and she was irritated, and there was like a weird dynamic between the two of them. And like you said, you can feel it in the air when that kind of stuff's going
Yeah,
on.
right. And so her sister went on to say, Larry has not been responding to our text messages or answering our phone calls. So we got worried. Me and my sister-in-law went to go check on the kids Monday and to make sure that they were okay. And that was a lot. In reference to seeing her nieces and nephews, she stated that. Quote, it was awkward and it was weird. The kids were very distant. They weren't excited to see us like they usually are. And especially the young one, her 4-year-old. he would be excited to give me a hug, and we were calling each other our BFFs, but this time they just kind of looked and didn't give me a hug, end quote. And that's, I mean, that's something that you just feel viscerally. I mean, right? Children can't hide their emotions and what they've seen, and that would be very upsetting to me. Why are they acting like this? What, it seems like a traumatic response, doesn't it?
It does. And it also, for me, when I'm thinking like if their mother's missing, I would think the sight of her sister would be a comfort to them and that they would
Yeah.
want to have that kind of physical. I mean, and granted, not every family. I mean, you and I we're both families that are very much huggy and kissy, and so maybe that's not everybody's situation. I understand that, but she even says it's weird they don't give her a hug, and I would think in this situation they would actually be needing that more than usual. So it seems like my first question is, what are they being told?
Yeah.
What's that environment like? So
Actually, I was in a personal situation where I knew a family where the father was killed and there were little kids, and the sister and the brother-in-law immediately came to town, and these kids were latched onto their aunt and uncle. I
yeah.
mean, just especially the uncle. And it just immediately they all came together, and the fact that the husband is not really communicating. Okay, maybe the marriage is strained, maybe it was a family thing, he's not really into their family, they don't like him. Put that stuff aside, she's missing.
Yeah. And funny enough, it actually seems like they all got along. I mean, they took this glamorous trip together. They were going to go take this birthday trip to Big Bear together.
Yeah.
They do seem like they're very involved. He said in that interview, when they used to get in a fight and she would disappear, I used to get her family involved, and then she'd get mad at him for getting her family. So it does seem like there is a good relationship there. And again, this could go so many ways. Your kids are confused, scared, they're being protected from, maybe they don't know what's going on or how much dad has told them. We don't know, but it does seem very strange to me that these kids are not emotional towards their aunt, and I think it was her friend, but still.
That reaction almost seems to me like the dad hasn't told them anything, and they're
Yeah.
just having to figure it out themselves, and so they're just looking around and shocked and like, what's happening? It's
And
just,
I don't judge. Like, you do what's right for your family and your kids.
oh yeah,
Maybe
there's no way to make this
no,
easy. It's going to be
no.
traumatic regardless.
Right.
Mom is gone.
Right.
Whew, so that is what we know so far about the marriage and all of that. So now that we've covered all of these details, Jenna, there was a press conference recently. What did we learn from that?
Yeah, so the press conference was last week on February 5th, and we're going to play the audio for you guys right now to listen to it. It's a little bit long, so just bear with us, but it is important because there's a few things I want to talk about after you guys hear it, because I would like to, put this out there and see what other people's reactions are. So here's the clip of the Chief of Police, Roxana Kennedy. Let's listen to it now.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Roxana Kennedy, and I'm the Chief of Police here at Chula Vista Police Department. But before I begin today, I would like to introduce some very important individuals that are here with us today. I would first like to introduce May's sister, Mary Chris, and her brother-in-law, Richard. Also, there are many members of May's family in the audience, and also many friends. So we welcome you here today. Also, I have Honorable Mayor Casillas behind me, as well as Lieutenant Miriam Fox. She is the lieutenant that oversees our criminal investigations division, and Captain Eric Thunberg, who is the lead for all of investigations. So we want you to know at Chula Vista Police Department that we understand the concern for answers. Everyone wants May home, and our prayers are that she will come home safely. Please do not assume that this is not a priority to our police department. This is a compassionate organization that empathizes with our community, and May is a part of our community. I want you to know that I'm a mother, and my children are my world. And I know that May's children meant everything to her. And I want you to know that to hear that May missed her daughter's birthday hit home with many of our officers and our detectives here at this department that are also parents. I had an opportunity to visit with Mary, Chris, and Richard and the rest of the family, and I believe I met Papa, and I met other sisters and brother JR, and wow, what a family. And so we really are doing everything we possibly can to come up with answers right now. And I want you to know that my entire crimes of violence team has been working around the clock on this case from day one. And they are following all leads. And I want to assure our community that no rock is being left unturned. I also want you to know that the detectives are staying in contact with May's family. And we did have a conversation today, and it's understandable that it's difficult. They need even more contact because they're just heartbroken over the loss of their sister, the unknown reason why she is no longer here in Chula Vista. And this case has received a lot of coverage in the local and national media, which is so important to us. We are very happy for all that each and every one of you have done to bring attention to May's disappearance. To May's case, this has been instrumental in driving a number of tips and leads. And I can assure each of these tips and leads are being investigated. Your coverage this morning alone may help generate the one piece of information that leads us to finding May, and we are thankful for all of your help. I know it's difficult to be patient when someone you love is missing, and we sincerely empathize with the family. We cannot share all the steps in our investigative process because we cannot compromise this investigation. As we all pray for May to return home safely, we can't rule anything out. As in all cases, victims and families deserve justice. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Lieutenant Miriam Fox, our Criminal Investigations Lieutenant, and she can share a few details with you that have been in the news, but we want to make sure that everyone has as much information as we possibly can share. So, Lieutenant Fox.
Thank you, Chief. Again, my name is Lieutenant Miriam Fox with the Criminal Investigations Division. Thank you for being here. Our investigation is continuing and ongoing. We've conducted multiple interviews, friends, family members, neighbors, and co-workers. We've reviewed over 100 hours of video. We're actively investigating this case. We're not releasing any information or details in the investigation to maintain the integrity of the investigation. But we want the public to know we will rest assured we're in contact with the family on a constant basis. The family is very much a part of this investigation. If it is determined that Maya is a victim of a crime, our investigation becomes even more important. We continue to ask, plead, the community to help us in locating Maya. If you have any information, anything, please contact us, the Chula Vista Police Department, or San Diego Crime Stoppers. Thank you.
And just so you know, there is information here on this flyer in regards to the numbers that you can call for Crime Stoppers or Chula Vista Police Department, and they will transfer you to the detective assigned to the case. And at this time, I would like to introduce to you our Mayor Mary Casillas-Salas, who would like to make a statement.
Thank you, Chief Kennedy, and first of all, to Mary, Chris, and Richard, and all the families that are gathered here. I just want to express my personal concern and sorrow about the puzzle that we're trying to solve here in finding Maya. What I'm really proud of our community, and I see all you community members out here and members of the family, is Chula Vista comes together as a family, as a community of concern. And as Chief Kennedy mentioned, this is a priority for our police department to make sure that we search every clue, that we follow every lead, and that we hope that there will be ultimately a good resolution to this. But in the meantime, I understand your fear and your concern and it must just be devastating for all of you to go through this. I can't imagine what it would be for my family to have somebody that I love missing and have no idea what happened. It's a puzzle that must be solved, and I know that our police department is working day and night to make sure that we find Maya and bring her back home. And thank you, community, because you're such an important part of this. All your efforts, all the signs I see all around Chula Vista, somebody knows what happened. Somebody does, and we hope that person will come forward, that person or persons. And I just pray every night for the safe return of Maya. And also to let you know, as Chief said, not only are we a family as a community, but this police department is a family with you. And we've seen that experience time after time, how our police department really comes forward and helps our community in need, not just as part of their official duties, but as men and women of compassion. So again, my sincere prayers and thoughts are with you, and we're all wanting to bring Maya home. And thank you, community, for your continued efforts. And we will impart information to you, to the community, as soon as it's okay, and that it will not hamper our investigation or, tip off a wrongdoer if that's what happened to what we're doing. Be patient. We love you. We love Maya, and we pray for her return. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what the mayor just said really means a lot. Someone out there knows something. Someone has information, and for whatever reason, they might not be comfortable coming forward. We are willing to do whatever we can to help that individual feel like they can remain as anonymous as possible. But please, someone knows something. You cannot just disappear without anyone knowing something. So we really need you.
Okay, Brett. So you're so good, like you said, with the psychology of things, of the micro comments, right? And so there's a few things I wanted to bring up and ask your opinion. So the chief does use words like no longer here, and then she paused and said in Chula Vista, but both of those are strange to me. And then she said something like the children meant the world to her. And she said something about loss. I forget in the context now, but she's speaking in past tense. And, we know a lot about police. You actually I think you said you have people that you know in the area, but is this a slip like that we've messed up on? Do they know more than do you know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, there's so much that goes into these press conferences behind the scenes. It's usually not just the person coming up and reading what they wrote. They do talk to analysts and people like that. And maybe because it seemed almost like they flip-flopped. Like sometimes they used past tense, sometimes they didn't. And there could be a motivation to that. They want somebody to or maybe they know more and they're trying to get somebody else to slip in the past tense. I don't know. I think that everything they say is orchestrated and there's a reason. I don't think any of that would have been done without intention and purpose.
So yeah, it to get some sort of reaction, or it's very interesting because when I was listening to it, I had to like rewind it and listen to it again. I was like, did she say what I think she said? And then the other thing that I think is very interesting, she kept referring to the family. Well, and she meant to, and I think the first part you heard, she's talking about the family here, and you can't see it because we're just playing the audio, but Larry's not there. The kids aren't there. It's her sister. And there's a bunch of people. So I don't actually know who all was there, but it's all extended family or her family. And he's nowhere to be found. He's not even mentioned. What?
That whole part was very strange because there is a large group of people behind them. It seems like they're all related and there are children there. So there's other people that have kids, which makes me feel like the other kids would probably be there.
Yeah.
I found that very strange. They acted like he didn't exist almost.
And it's weird because again, it can go both ways, right? Like if I was missing, would my husband want to be with my children and protecting them, or is he going to be in front of a camera? My husband personally would probably be at home with my kids, and protecting them from what's ever going on. I don't know that he would be in front of a camera doing whatever, but
I
also,
think most often without a police having an attorney, usually the police will say, this is a really good point for you to come out there and show your face, and we'll make sure the kids are, have the kids stay with a family member. Like certainly he has to still work, and somebody else must be watching the kids at some point. But I don't know if he's working, but he's got to go run errands or whatever. So usually they're there, like if we look
Mhm.
back in history, but also pop culture has made it like so villainous, like
Mhm.
the what is the Ben Affleck Gone Girl, how strange he was, and now everybody thinks because they've read that book or because they watch
Yeah.
Forensic Files that they can tell that he said something strange. So did he have an attorney before he
So
went?
he does have an attorney now. I don't know what date he actually got the attorney because that was my next question. Would an attorney actually say, don't do it? Just,
I would assume so.
yeah, okay. So then that could be the
Especially
reason
if
too,
you
right?
think, yeah, I mean, if you think,
They can incriminate themselves in any shape, way. 'Cause even the wrong look, because everyone is looking you up and down. Whether you
yeah,
did something or not, you are the husband. So by default, you're the first person people are going to look at. And so I think they're going to look at how's he standing? How's he holding his hands?
yeah.
How's his facial expressions and dissecting all of that stuff. So,
Oh, yeah. All you have to do is go on Reddit to see what people do to press
oh,
conferences. I
so
mean, they're looking at every single person, what they're wearing, who was there, and they just eviscerate people. So I would understand wanting to avoid that if you, I mean, either way, if you're innocent or not, quite frankly.
yeah. So I mean, my takeaway from this is I think they know, obviously they know a lot more and they're not telling us because it's an active investigation. I think they're trying to, I think they almost know what they're looking for. They just got to get the evidence is kind of the vibe I'm getting. I'm
And
not
are
a
you
professional,
thinking
but
this because they went searching in a certain place? Like why do
I
you
just think
think
from
that?
the things that she's saying to her not mentioning Larry, to him not being there, like, do they think he had something to do with it? And that's why they're not including his name at all. Like, I mean, he hasn't, but then again, he hasn't been a part of the searches as far as I could find out. He's acting very suspect and it's not doing him any favors, but at the same time, if you're innocent, you absolutely should still have a freaking lawyer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their advice to, because you don't want to be the one that finds your wife also. So it's like, did they probably maybe tell you to do things behind the scenes instead of being in front? So again, it can go
Yeah, I
both
mean, you and
ways.
I, what would we do if this happened, God forbid, to somebody we know? We would probably advise the spouse to get an attorney.
100%.
Yeah, so
100%.
it's not
Does not mean you're
always
guilty.
just, yeah.
So on that note, so they don't give us any information. We do know though that a search warrant was served at the home at Maya, or I'm gonna call her Maya.
May,
That's
Maya.
okay. At her home on January 23rd, and again, nothing's been released to what they've collected. But the neighbors, so I'm on some Facebook groups, and a lot of the neighbors are on these groups, and they are reporting that both of their cars have been impounded by police, the Jeep and a Lexus, I guess. Again, this isn't
Ooh.
things that have been released. It's kind of the nosy neighbors on Facebook saying this is what they've observed. And kind of
But
on the,
if they're taking things like the cars, they're thinking something happened.
yeah. So, I mean, and we do know, like, Larry said, when they reported her missing, the police did come to the home. They walked to the home, they looked in the cars. So who knows? But I think it's also procedure. If someone's going missing, you're
Yeah.
going to impound things, you're going to take things because that's their last known whereabouts. And it is what it is. And
Yeah.
speaking of these neighbors, it's it could be creepy or heartwarming because I think everyone's assuming Larry's involved in some shape or form, just because, again, kind of history has proven this to be something that keeps happening, even though divorce is an option, people. But um, the neighbors seem to be very concerned about the children. I understand that. But they're also like kind of, oh, did you guys hear the kids? But isn't like they're listening for the kids to be in that home and kind of trying to pay attention to what's going on, which like let's give people their privacy, but I also understand the fear, and maybe he should give the kids to his in-laws for now until things calm down, like so that there's
You
not
have
all
to,
this pressure at like watching his home. Like, I don't know.
yeah, you have to believe that the cops, the social workers, the psychologists know, they must know the kids aren't in danger, which then makes me feel like maybe he's not a suspect because
Yeah.
they would get the kids out of there unless they're watching somehow,
Mhm.
and they know what's going on. But and then I wonder, I didn't see anything about like, did they have a Nest camera, a Ring camera? I didn't hear anything about
I
that because they
didn't
haven't.
hear them having one, but he does say that they've been checking with the neighbors for their cameras,
Oh,
because their whole thing was because she was a hiker, did she just walk out of the house to go for a walk or a hike and something happened? So they're trying to find, or they probably have already by now confiscated neighbors' cameras to try and see if they see her anywhere, because she left without, I mean, her phone's missing, her
yeah.
car's there.
And
So it's
then last night in a flurry, you started texting me because
So well, let me back up. So earlier in the week, there was skeletal remains found, which right when I read it, I was like, it's not her because it's skeleton, and I don't think in the time frame that that could
a
have
month.
happened. So I didn't even look into it. Like, it's not her. But of course, I'm sure that came back to the family, and they probably were like, oh my God.
Mm,
So then last night I saw this article that they pulled a body out of a local lake to them. So I think it's about 15 minutes from where they live. And immediately, because it was a woman and everybody's freaking out. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is her. Oh my gosh. And finally, I think at like 10 o'clock, a news reporter had said it's not related, and they found out it's a blonde woman. And so that immediately, and plus she has very noticeable tattoos, so they'll be able to identify her right away if that were the case.
yeah,
So as of right now, there is nothing. They've done searches, they're doing rallies, and you can find, if you're local to Chula Vista, you should definitely go. There's a Facebook, it's not a group, it's a page. So you just like it and then you can see all the information. And they are posting, the information about rallies that they're doing or searches that they're doing. So if you are local and have the time, I highly suggest, helping them in any way they can. And it's a good way just to get they have all the information for the GoFundMe on there, because they're trying to just raise some money to help provide for a PI if they need it, or the searches, or posters and that kind of thing. So all that
that
information
stuff is
is,
so expensive. And yeah, if you live in California, if you anywhere, if you go on Facebook and share it, I mean, all it can do is help.
yeah, and it's just so sad. These kids need their mom and they need to get some answers. Even if it's the worst case scenario, which I hope it's not, these children they need to know what's going on. And,
Yeah.
if their father, God forbid, is involved, that needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. So
Mhm.
if anyone has any information on this, you can contact the Chula Vista Police Department and or the San Diego Crime Stoppers. We'll put the phone numbers up on our or our Instagram, our website, and
Website.
then you can always Google it and stuff like that, or go to their Facebook page. And yeah, just keeping an eye on this. It's gutted me. I don't know why, but I'm like very invested, and I just want her to be found. But
Yeah.
we're gonna
The ones that are
end.
happening in real time are
Oh,
are difficult because you're just hoping and hoping that they find them.
I know. So we are going to end. This is the second part of the press conference for you guys, and this is her Maya's sister and her sister's husband talking, and we just wanted to leave it on this note so you guys can hear their plea, basically. So let's listen to that now.
At this time, I would like to ask May's family, and she's referred to as May or Maya, and so May's family is here, and Mary, Chris, and Richard would like to come up to the podium together. This is her sister and her brother-in-law, to motivate and encourage us all to work together right now. So please come forward. We would like to encourage the family to please come up with them.
So I can't speak with this.
Well, first of all, we thank each and every one of you for coming and supporting us today. We also want to thank Chief Police Officer Kennedy and her entire team working very hard for my sister May, finding her. And in the community, the public, we do thank you from the bottom of our hearts, helping us finding my sister. I'm sorry.
Our main goal has always been to find May, and now to protect the kids. We couldn't do this without the community support, the police support. So just like my wife said, thank you so much. I know we could never repay what you guys have done for us in this tragic time. But our goal today is just to motivate the community to keep pushing forward, to find those answers, to find May, and to continue the spotlight on this case, to let the community, we're not going to give up until we get May back home, to find May, get answers to the case, and just to show the support. And you guys are amazing. The community is amazing. I consider all you guys family, because you guys are out here helping us. So thank you.
And I'm pleading, anyone out there, please, anybody, somewhere, somehow, might know where my sister whereabouts is. Please bring her home. We need our sister. Her kids, they need their mom. Please help us find my sister. Anyone out there, if you have any information at all, please help us find my sister. And from the bottom of our hearts, please, we thank you, and we thank you.
God bless. Thank you, guys.
Oh, it's so heartbreaking. But again, just if you know anyone or you can assist or help or donate, please do so they can find some answers in this case. And stay tuned. We will keep you updated. In other news, Brittany, so this was my obsession and you found your obsession. And I also have been following this, but not like you. So I want you to tell the people what's going on.
Happily. Okay. So Jenna and I absolutely love Paul Holes and Billy Jensen. They're like, the gods of true crime. And if you don't know, Billy Jensen used to be on True Crime Daily, and he was good friends with I always forget her name, Michelle McNamara, who wrote I'll Be Gone in the Dark. And Paul Holes obviously is an ex-detective from Contra Costa County. So anyway, Billy Jensen started this podcast with his friend Alexis Linkletter, and they're both born and raised in Long Island, New York. And they have a new podcast called Unraveled, and it's about the Long Island serial killer. And it is fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. I devoured the first 3 episodes, listened to them twice. And then I started listening to another podcast called LISK. That's kind of the acronym they use for the Long Island serial killer, because it's such a wordy title. But so Jenna, Long Island, right? It's like you've got Manhattan, and then the rest of it is Long Island. And at the very, very end, there's a beach. The tip, there's one beach on one side, obviously, and the other, and it's Oak Beach and Jones Beach. And the whole thing started in 2011 when a girl named Shannon Gilbert went missing. And if you're into true crime, you've probably seen
Know
an
this
episode
case,
about
yeah.
her because, oh my gosh, they've done so many episodes on her. She was working as a Craigslist escort, and she was driven out to this house in this area, and it's called Gilgo Beach. And it's just if you've seen the stories, she supposedly is on a call to meet with somebody and then runs from the house and asks multiple people in the neighborhood for help. Nobody helps her. And then while searching for her after the fact, because then she's missing, they end up finding 5 bodies. None of them are her, but 5 other bodies.
And I want to say too, I feel like her family has a lot to do with this too, because they wouldn't go away. Like they really brought some awareness to her and then thus finding all these people.
Yeah, and her sister especially, she had a few sisters. And then in a very weird sequence of events, Jenna, you watched this with me, but I think you forgot. So there's also an episode of, oh gosh, it's like Murder Tapes or one of those that's on ID, and it's Shannon Gilbert's sister and her mother. Do you remember this?
Yes.
So later on, I don't remember exactly the year, but Shannon Gilbert's little sister ended up murdering her mother. And so this family has been through it. And this sister of hers that has continued to try to find her sister and then loses her mother. Now her other sister's in jail. It's just so heartbreaking. But so Shannon Gilbert, this 24-year-old, because of her, they found these other 5 bodies and they continued to look. And they ended up finding even more. They found an Asian male, a teenager. They ended up finding a 2-year-old toddler's remains. And then they found her mother's remains.
This was all in like a marsh type area, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
It's in a very weird part of like the very end of Long Island. So this has been happening since the 2000s, right? And they started finding bodies in 2011, and I've heard about it and there's been stories about it, but then you never really hear anything. And to
Yeah.
this day, nobody has ever been arrested in this case. So Unraveled focuses on one person of interest, and it is the chief of police of the Suffolk County Police. It's the 13th largest police department in the country, and it's one of the most coveted positions for a police officer because they get the highest salaries. So allegedly, they are saying that James Burke, who was the Suffolk County Police Chief, was involved in this because Alexis Linklater, if you'll remember, she was one of the co-hosts, one of her good friends that she grew up with went down a bad street, got addicted to drugs, and stole something out of this police officer's car, not knowing it was a cop, opened it and found a snuff film. And if you don't know, you can look it up, but then there's all of these stories about this cop mentioning these types of things, and it kind of clicked for me. I was like, oh my gosh, it just always seemed like they have so much DNA, they have so much information. Why haven't they caught this person? And then I looked into why, like the FBI certainly would have caught them. So he became police chief, and within weeks, he called the FBI off, told the FBI to not help with a serial killer case, and insulated the entire investigation and protected himself. But it's just so shocking that they've never caught the person, that there's all of this evidence that police were involved, that the FBI wasn't involved. Thank goodness they are now. Only 5 years ago, they started working on this case. And they had a press conference recently. There's a new chief of police. There's a new commissioner. She's a female. Her name is Geraldine Hart. And she released new information on a belt. So they haven't really released any information, probably because they were trying to protect people, and they have a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
So this thing that they just released in January of 2020 during a press conference was a image of a leather belt. And it has the initials embossed in the leather of either HM or WH. And they're saying it did not belong to any of the victims, and it was handled by the suspect. That's all that they will say.
Oh, God.
So there's pictures of that. And they also started a website just for this case. It's called gilgonews.com. You can go there and see all the case files, where the bodies were found and when. And please listen to Unraveled. It is so fantastic.
So
LISK.
well done. It's
LISK is wonderful too. I want this case to be solved. I want this case to get more attention, because I feel like true crime people, we feel like we've heard some of the story, but then we kind of lose it when it's not in the news all the time. Like, how have all of these women gone missing? And you know what it comes back to? A lot of them are prostitutes.
I was just gonna say, because they're not someone that the police deem important, as
don't
for
even
lack of
deem as a human.
right. So
These parents came to and reported this, and they were like, they're probably on vacation, or they're a
or they
working girl.
wanted to be disappeared. That's always the other one. They're of age. They're allowed to like just disappear. It's like, well, okay, that's really not.
And
how
there's
you should-
so much more to this. Like, Shannon Gilbert called 911 that night when she was running for her life, and she was on the phone with 911 for 23 minutes. That 911 call has never been released. It disappeared. Supposedly there's a new version, but it has 2 minutes cut out of it.
Oh,
And they're unraveling it. But I want to hear that 911 call so badly, because I feel like there's something on it.
of
But
course
there's just
there
all of
is.
this evidence that's just disappeared, and it's the spotlight is on law enforcement, thank goodness. And this is like an opportunity to get it out there. And come on, true crimers, we can do this. Let's find this person.
I also think that the podcast I think that they're also doing a show at some point, because I remember seeing him like
Netflix.
kind of do some filming, Billy Jensen. So I'm excited. I think there's going to be a lot more coming out about this. I would assume with the next year or so that they're going to have a lot of traction, and it's going to be real interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think there's a docuseries coming out, and there was a movie that was released last year on Netflix called Lost Girls. It's a film, but it's based on this case, and it's phenomenal. I recommend it.
I haven't seen it yet, but now I will.
So that is your update on the Long Island serial killer, which I am staying up all night. I'm gonna catch him. I'm gonna find him. And I need your help. So please.
I need to go on a deep dive. I've been trying to do the thing where I'm just listening to the podcast as it goes, because you're the one that's like Googling as you're listening to it. And I want to I want to try it. But now that I know that there's a website, I'll be diving in later. So
it's not as great as I thought. Like, it could have been a lot better, but
yeah,
you can tell police put it up there.
Well, it's
looks
fine
like it was
too.
made in
I'm
the
sure
1980s.
Oh. All right. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Keep your eyes peeled. Lots of stuff going on. And astrology wise, right? This is the year it's all happening. It's all going to
And Mercury is in retrograde, everybody. So that's why life has been so difficult.
Oh, it really has. So join us next time. Our next episode you're going to see actually very soon is going to be some updates. There are so many updates coming from cases that we've covered. So we're going to do a whole separate episode for you guys for that. And then we'll have some new cases in the works down the line.
Yeah.
So, until next time, we'll see you later.
Be safe.
And trust your gut. Bye.
Adios.